Thank you for joining me today. It's Brian Gubernick, and welcome to the No Days Off podcast, where we believe that every single day brings an opportunity to get better. Today, we're going to break down a concept that shows up everywhere in life and business, but it rarely gets talked about with any seriousness. What we're going to talk about are what are called red herrings. And red herrings are the false signals that pull you away from the real issue. Before we get into how they affect decision making, though, let's start with where the term even comes from, because it's not a random term. So hundreds of years ago in England, hunters trained their dogs by dragging a strong smelling fish, a smoked reddish herring. They dragged this fish across a trail to throw the dogs off the scent of the actual game that the dogs were trained to go find. The purpose was simple. It was to distract the dogs from the true target. Now that's a metaphor. A red herring is anything that pulls you off the scent of what really matters. It's designed or allowed to mislead you. And once you see how often this sort of thing happens in business and in investing and in your everyday decisions, you start to understand why smart people sometimes go the wrong direction. See, a red herring is a detail that feels relevant, but it is not. It looks connected, but it doesn't move the outcome. It may grab your attention, but it points you in the wrong direction. See, the problem isn't that the red herring is false. It actually might be true. It's that it's irrelevant to the result you're trying to create. And I think that distinction really matters. Because most bad decisions, they don't come from a lack of intelligence. They come from following the wrong scent. Now, how do red herrings show up in the real world? Well, in business, let's say a team misses its numbers. So a team misses its numbers. Instead of examining the skills or the habits or the execution, the conversation drifts to market conditions or seasonality or office energy or office culture, maybe activity of our competitor. And while all those things might exist, they don't explain the miss. There are red herrings that feel easier to talk about than the real drivers, like skill or lack thereof, or habits or execution. How about in leadership? Let's say a leader sees morale drop with his or her team. So instead of looking at clarity, accountability, maybe communication, they get pulled into one employee's complaint or office gossip or a single negative moment. They end up solving the wrong problem. That's a red herring. In personal growth or personal performance, people obsess over the perfect workout plan or the ideal supplement or the trendy, time-saving method or productivity method. Meanwhile, the real issue is consistency, sleep, nutrition, maybe focus. See, the red herring gives them something to chase so they can avoid what actually matters. In investing, I think, we mentioned Warren Buffett yesterday. This is where Warren Buffett's philosophy becomes useful. See, most people react to daily price moves and headlines or analyst commentary, predictions. These are classic red herrings. They're loud, but they oftentimes are pretty meaningless. Warren Buffett's point was simple. And again, if you don't know what I'm talking about, go back to yesterday's episode. His point was simple, that over time, the market weighs fundamentals like earnings and cash flow and returns. Everything else is just a false scent. It's just a red herring. Now, why is it that these red herrings succeed? Well, they succeed for one reason, in my opinion, and that's that they are easier to confront than the truth. They are easier to confront than the truth. See, the real issue usually requires discomfort, analysis, maybe accountability, maybe discipline. See, a red herring gives you an attractive shortcut, something that's emotional or immediate that you can respond to, something that's dramatic that feels actionable. It feels right because it demands, maybe it feels right, I should say, because it demands less from you. I think that's why people fall for them. Now, these examples, they show a certain pattern. The business distraction, for example, company revenue stalls. Everyone blames the economy. Meanwhile, our lead follow-up is terrible. Our sales proposals lack clarity. Our offer structure is confusing. The economy becomes the red herring that keeps the company from fixing the real issue. How about in a relationship? A couple argues about a specific incident. The tone, the timing, the phrasing, that becomes the focal point around this specific incident. But the root cause is something much deeper than this. It's maybe a lack of connection, or it's misaligned expectations, or it's just poor communication habits. See, solving the incident actually changes nothing because it wasn't the real problem. I think that the most effective entrepreneurs and the most effective investors and leaders, they share a common skill. And that's that they're able to separate the signal from distraction rather quickly. They ask things like, does this detail change the outcome? Is this noise or is it data? Am I reacting to what's loud or to what's real? Or lastly, if I ignore this detail entirely, would my decision change? I think that last question reveals the red herring rather quickly, instantly. So what do you do about this? Well, I'm going to give you an action item. I want you to choose one problem you're currently wrestling with, be it in business, your team, your money, your personal life. It doesn't matter. But choose one problem you're currently wrestling with, and write down, number one, what I would call the loud detail, the thing that's getting all your attention. What is it, as you're looking at this problem, is getting all of your attention? And then write down the real driver, the factor that actually determines the outcome. Okay, so you've got the loud detail, the thing that's getting all your attention, and I want you to write down the real driver, the factor that actually determines the outcome. And then do yourself a favor, commit to ignoring that loud detail for a week and only act on that real driver. I think you'll be surprised how quickly decisions become clearer once you stop chasing the wrong scent. Now, side note, in order to be effective with this practice, you've got to give yourself some space. You have to give yourself some time. When I say time, I think it helps separate you from the emotion. And the loud detail is oftentimes, identified. You're emotionally attached to it. That's why it's getting so much attention. Give yourself some space and you start to find that real driver. And again, when you do this, you'll see rather quickly your decisions will become clear. That's all I have for you today, the No Days Off podcast. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, every single day brings a new opportunity to get better. So let's get after it.